Hi guys, welcome to my business advice and money saving tips channel. This video is a bit of business advice on how you could do your company accounts for, next to nothing, 30, 40 quid, without paying hundreds or thousands for an accountant. But before I jump in, a quick joke as ever. This one is another one of my favourites from comedian Frankie Boyle. Nobody thought Mel Gibson could play a Scottish person. But look at him now, alcoholic and a racist. So sooner or later, when you start making money in your business, you can't escape them. You're going to have to do your company accounts. And I know it's such a pain in the bum and it's boring and you've got lots of more exciting things to do in your business, but you can't avoid them. The tax man is going to be knocking on your door at some point sooner or later, so you might as well just make them go away, get your accounts done and typo around them, yada yada yada. But the question is, how do you do your company accounts in the most cost-effective way possible? Now, I've run several businesses throughout the years. In my very first business, I had no idea what I was doing on my company accounts. I paid an accountant about £1,200 to do my accounts. And I rocked up at our first meeting. I was about maybe 9 months into my business. No, I was a year into my business. And I just came with a big book of receipts and went, yep, there you go. And she was like, what are you doing? Where's your accounts? And I was like, there's my receipts. Here's my bank statements. What do you want? And I basically paid a lot of money that year because what I failed to realise was that she had to reconcile everything on my accounts. What does reconcile mean? Reconcile is basically where you get a list of transactions and you basically say where they came from, and that's reconciliation. Whether it came from a business expense or whether it was paid money in, that is reconciliation. So someone can look at your accounts and go, oh, okay, so that transaction on that date, that is linked to that. And I was ignorant, arrogant, called it what you will, but because of my stupidity in my first year, maybe even my second year in business, I had very high accountant fees because I did not want to touch my accounts. So after paying a good few £1,000s, I realised that, you know what, I kind of like money better than I actually like giving my accounts over to my accountant as a mess. So I tackled them head on. And what I actually realised is that accounts are really easy. And I think most people's aversion to accounts really comes from just the idea and the notion that it's something overly technical, it's something they can't do, it's something that only a trained professional accountant could potentially crack, and that's all just absolute rubbish. So look, you will need an accountant to actually file your accounts, but what I suggest is to actually reconcile all of your accounts first, and I'll talk you through how to do that in a moment. And then once you've got all of your final numbers, then pass it over to an accountant. Now, by doing that, you can hire a freelance accountant through a site like People Per Hour or Elance, and pay like 30, 40 quid, and that's it. So the first step with getting your accounts ready for your accountant is to reconcile them. So you have to go into your online business banking, cut and paste your transactions, put them into an Excel spreadsheet, and then you basically need to assign different columns to different types of expenses or income. So let's say, for example, for me, I've got sales coming in, I've got, in terms of other money coming in, what else do I have apart from sales? I've got different types of sales, I've got deposits, I've got remaining payments, and I've broken them down into different columns. Now, for my expenses, I have lots of expenses, and through my experience of working with a few accountants over the years, I've always been told to make as many columns as possible to really kind of separate the expenses as much as I possibly can. So for every different type of expense, I have a different column in my Excel spreadsheet. And then all I do is, once I've got all of my columns in place, I then start dragging the transactions across into the right column. Now, for my actual physical receipts, I used to, and I did this for many years, I would link every individual hard receipt that I had to align on the Excel spreadsheet. So I'd write a number on the actual receipt, and then I put that number in the Excel spreadsheet so the two corresponded to each other, and then I would lay out all of my receipts very nicely, stapled on individual sheets of A4 into this, what I would call a expense book. And I did that for many, many years. But then I realised that there's such a small chance of being audited. It was just a huge waste of time, and it was really, really time consuming. So the way in which I now order my physical receipts is that I just keep them in month order. So Leo, let's say for example, I did get audited. It wouldn't take me that long to actually get out the different receipts that the person auditing my accounts for them to see. It wouldn't take too long to actually find the right receipts. Now going back to the Excel spreadsheet, once you've dragged all of the different transactions into their right columns, you then need to get your final numbers. And on an Excel spreadsheet, it's very, very easy. There is this button here, which is like I'm not quite sure the right word for it. It's a sum button, total button. But basically you hit that, you drag it all across the spreadsheet, and then you'll see down here, all of the totals appear. Now what we need to do is to take these totals and put those into its own little table, its own little column. And I've done that down here. Now, by doing this, we'll get a total amount of money coming in to the company, and then a total amount of money going out of the company. Now, once we have those numbers, we then take one away from the other, and that will either tell you if your company is running at a profit or a loss. Now, those are the real basics. The other thing that I think you also need to do and manage is have a look in your personal accounts, because the big name of the game here with your accounts is to obviously declare the lowest amount of profit you possibly can, because you are going to get taxed on the profit. Now in the UK you are taxed 20% on your company profits, so it really, really does pay to spend a bit of time on your expenses to make sure you've got as many things on there as possible to make that profit as low as possible. So things like your personal expenses, look at anything that you might have put on your personal expenses by mistake that you might be able to call a business expense. So did you go to a business meeting and then did you pay for a train on your personal account? Did you have a meal when you had a business meeting? If you work from home, there's quite a lot of home expenses that you can put on your company expenses. So let's say for example, if you had your own office in your home, and let's say you've got, I don't know, a 2-bedroom house, and your office, let's say, takes up about 30% of your home, then you could put 30% of all of your home expenses on your company accounts. When I say home expenses, I mean things like your broadband, your gas, your electric. And once you've got a total for all of the business expenses that went out of your personal account, then put those into your company accounts, as you could do it just as one figure, and then provide more of a breakdown on another spreadsheet. So what you now should have is a spreadsheet which has all of the money going in, all the money going out. Now, the final thing to mention is a director's loan. Now, a director's loan basically happens and is created when you pay money into your own company. So let's say, for example, my company had a really bad month, and I was getting really close to like zero, and I had very little money to advertise. And I look into my personal accounts, and actually, I've got a fair bit of money there. So what I would do is just take £1,000 from my personal account and transfer that into my business account, my company account. My company then owes me £1,000. So I can then pay myself £1,000 from my company back into my personal account, and that will be tax-free because that is part of the director's loan. That's my company paying off its own loan to myself. It's really weird with a director's loan if you own your own company, but you got to think of it as its own separate entity, because if you don't, you might just drive yourself bonkers. So look guys, once you've done all of that, you got all your final numbers, your director's loan, yada yada yada, you're now finally ready to go out and find a freelance accountant. So go on sites like People Per Hour, go on Elance, put your ads out there, I would always recommend and suggest getting an accountant who is based in your country, because they will know obviously a lot more about the tax information and any kind of loopholes in your country as well. Again, you don't need to pay through the nose. Look through the reviews. I got a really fantastic accountant to do my accounts, and I only pay her 40 quid, and she's fantastic. We have a very quick call. She has software, she puts all the numbers in, and it's a very quick and easy process for her. Like I say, I just have a quick 15-minute call with her, and yeah, to her, that's a very quick and easy 40 quid. Whatever you do, please don't pay over 100 quid. You don't need to. Yeah, the job that your accountant will be doing is going to be, as long as you've done all the groundwork, you've done everything like I said, the job they're going to do is it's going to take them minutes. It's going to take them literally minutes. So there's no reason why they should be charging anything over £100 for that service. Look guys, I really hope this video was useful. I hope you didn't fall asleep. I hope you're still with me. I know accountants are a really boring subject, but when I originally did my short kind of little angry video about accounts on a separate channel, I got lots of requests to actually do one less angry and slightly longer with more explanation. So yeah, please leave me a comment below, smash that like button and subscribe, and until next time, cheers!